if you want to run track and field in college and do it at the Division I level. I don't blame you, because D1 is the highest level of college competition. So high in fact that it's basically professional track and field. And the number of college athletes who compete at the World Championship event are proof of it. But oftentimes, I hear high school recruits who say that getting recruited for track and field is extremely hard to do because coaches won't email them back and nobody comes to scout them at their high school track meets. And my personal favorite is that it's all their high school coach's fault for not reaching out to schools on their behalf. So to be clear, I'm here to help you get recruited. And if D1 is really what you want, then I'm here to also help you get there. But I've got to be brutally honest in order for you to do that. Because Division I recruiting in track and field has a whole lot of politics in it. And I know that it probably feels like the odds are stacked against you. But you can still get to your dream. Because what I'm trying to tell you is that the politics of recruiting don't really matter that much. That's even if you want to go D1, because you can still get recruited by a college coach who really wants you to be on their team. And this is why and how you get it done. But before you can solve a problem, you have to know what the problem really is to begin with. So here is what the politics of recruiting actually look like. College track and field comes down to two goals for any team. First, the head coach has to set goals for their conference performance. Some of them want to win their conference every single year, so they set out to do that. Teams like Arkansas in the SEC, they clearly focus their energy on recruiting all the athletes who they believe will help them win their conference. But that's not what every coach is doing, because some don't even have that as part of their plan. And I'm not saying any names, but you can figure out who they are really quickly, because they always finish near the bottom of their conference. But the second goal that coaches have is to compete for national recognition. That means they need to recruit athletes who are good enough to qualify for national competitions, and then get those athletes to score points in those competitions when they show up. Simply put, college coaches really want to recruit athletes who are first team national elite on mile split, normally in more than one event. Those are always the athletes whom they believe are a safe bet to get them in the national conversation. Keep in mind, just getting on the elite list doesn't mean you're going to nationals. If a high school boy runs 21:50 in the 200, he's technically first team national elite, but he's still a long way off from the NCAA championships in D1. He's just good enough right now for the coach to take a chance on him, because he might drop a full second and then get fast enough to have a shot to actually make it in the meet. And these athletes, whom coaches think can help out the team on a national scale almost immediately, those are the only ones who are likely to get found in recruiting. So if you are a girl sprinter who ran 11.5 in the 100 as a junior, it's probably likely that a college coach is going to find you. But if you're the girl who lost to her in the state championship final and only ran 12.2 seconds, you're probably not going to get a phone call. But the only reason they're not talking to her is because she's been waiting for them to make the first move. There is a bright side to all of this. The better you run, or the better you perform, the better your chances of getting noticed. But remember, everybody's not going to perform first team national elite. That is why it is a big accomplishment, even in a state like California, which takes track and field very seriously. There were only 20 high school boys in 2023 who performed on the first team in the 200-meter dash, and only 4 of them were sophomores or freshmen. So that means, right now, in the state of California, there are only 4 boys who are juniors and down that D1 coaches are paying attention to. So by now, you should understand the problem. It doesn't really matter if you run AAU, USATF, or even just for your high school team. It is hard to catch the eye of a college track coach, unless you do what I am about to say next. Because the politics of recruiting only really matter if you're planning on getting an offer from the college recruitment meat market. Because college coaches are willing to put in work to find talented athletes. But like I said, they only really want the really talented ones. They will attend state championship events or even an AAU national event. And they're hoping to find a kid whom they can convince to join their team. But here is the secret. There's only a few kids in those meets whom they actually want. And everybody else they're probably not going to notice. And you can use that to your advantage. Because there are a bunch of D1 track teams in California. But if there's really only 4 underclassmen whom they are focused on right now, then that means they're all fighting against each other in order to get them. And most of them are gonna miss out, and they're gonna have to find somebody else. All you have to do is be one of the athletes whom I mentioned a while ago in this video. You just have to be an athlete who's good enough to help that team compete in their conference championship. If you can prove that to a college coach, they will recruit you. If your high school performances right now are good enough to rank you anywhere near the top 8 performances in any conference, you should likely be a top recruit for some of the schools in that conference. And that's even if the coach doesn't call you first. Because I promise you, there are some 400 runners right now in California who aren't fast enough to get the attention of Stanford, who is now in the ACC, or even USC, who's headed to the Big Ten. But those sprinters are good enough to get the attention of Bucknell University, who competes in the Patriot League, which is still in D1. But Bucknell is in Pennsylvania, and they can't fly to California just to recruit those kids. But if they reach out first, and they find out that they run 48s and 49s in the 400, they will do whatever they can to give them the best possible package. So there are a whole bunch more D1 offers to get than most people realize. But I have to address one more major misconception. Because when it comes to AAU and USATF track at the high school level, there is a benefit to doing it. But that benefit is to train with a really good coach who can help you improve your performances in those events. And I need to be really clear about this. It's the training and the coaching that allows you to produce the performances that creates the value out of either of those. Because college coaches really don't care that much where you are and when you run your fast times. They just want to know that you can do it and be able to verify it. When I was in high school, I didn't really run club track and field for long. But for the brief moment that I did, I met another sprinter, and he attended the USATF Junior Olympics. And I'm not saying any names, but the funny thing about it is he did not get offered any scholarship money to run track in college. He eventually walked on at the low D1 level, and I don't really know what happened to him after that. I'm just gonna assume that he walked off the team, because he wasn't on that roster for long either. The reason he didn't get a bunch of money is because he wasn't really that fast. So getting to the Junior Olympics is irrelevant unless you run fast enough to get somebody's attention when you get there. So if you only run for your high school, then that is just fine. As long as you drop the times that a coach wants to see, and then reach out to them to make sure that they actually see it. That's all that you really need to do to get coaches to take you seriously and recruit you. Because I'm trying to tell you that college coaches don't care that much where the talent is. They just want to know how to find it. Hopefully, a lot of it. And they know how to find the athletes on MileSplit's first team elite list. They line them all up and put them on one webpage. But that's not gonna be most recruits, and they know that part too. So my advice is simple if you really want to go D1, because you know who you are and what you're capable of. If you have the performances to compete in any Division I conference, and the internet will help you figure that out, then let the coach know that. by filling out a questionnaire or even sending a proper email. You've got nothing to lose and everything to gain by making the first move. If you've ever wondered how talented athletes end up in Division II and Division III, I'm gonna tell you how. It's simple. Those athletes were probably a cut below what the high-level D1 schools were looking for, so they didn't reach out to them. And then that kid sat and waited for somebody to contact them. Because they didn't know, a bunch of D1 schools would want them if they knew that they existed. It was a D2 school, or maybe an NAIA school, or even a Division III school who swooped right in and convinced them to commit. I'm not saying that that is a bad option, but if D1 is really what you want, then you're gonna have to go get it. Because if you are not on the elite list, I highly doubt that anyone is coming to save you in recruiting. At least not any school that you are likely to be interested in. I'm Coach Rob, and I'm always here to help you get recruited for college track and field. And if you want to see more content like this, then please like and subscribe.